this.
All right, President Trump just arrived at the White House. He's talking with reporters. Let's watch.
He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget.
What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems in LA? Are they people ISIS trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
Mr. President, will you invoke the Insurrection Act?
Incompetent.
All right, so he took 2 questions from reporters. That was very quick. The president coming back just moments ago. We wanted to show you that. Guy.
So I think the highlight out of that was sort of feeding this feud now with Gavin Newsom, which is what Newsom seems to want out of all of this. And if we're going to go back to the LA riots, I do find it very interesting that the entire posture of the governor of California and the mayor of the city that was set on fire yesterday seems to be, we're going to soft pedal the violence and the people doing the violence and try to turn this into a story about the president of the United States, which is a very, very bizarre thing unless you are afraid to call out a significant element of your own base that is growing increasingly brazen and violent. And your clumsy, pathetic deflection is to blaming Trump and to blaming ICE, the people who are being attacked by these thugs. Right. I guess that's the plan.
You know what, Kaylee, that I really don't understand? Because we saw Mayor Karen Bass, that's who you were talking about, and she came out late yesterday and said, look, she's against the violence, but Trump, 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 Trump. I'm paraphrasing. She may have only said Trump 5 times. But what I find interesting is right after L.A. suffered all that fire damage, it was horrible. She was the person. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Them kind of chasing her down as she was trying to make her way. She had gone abroad at the time when the announcements about the fires, the forecasts were coming up. I mean, she seems to always be in kind of the wrong place politically at the wrong time, too.
Yeah, and to say, you know, it's not unusual for things to descend into violence. Like that's not a quote you want out of your mouth as a politician, even if it's just a few people. Gavin Newsom, though, I'm interested in this just purely politically. Okay, I assume, Gavin Newsom, you care about your city and don't want to see it on fire. Let's just make that assumption. Okay, maybe you don't. Purely politically, why would you not look over to what Tim Walz did in Minnesota and be like, oh, he did this wrong. He didn't send the National Guard in time and a police precinct burned. I'm going to make a difference here. He's trying to rehabilitate his image as a leader ahead of 2028. How does this do it? These images are going to play. These same images were played against Tim Walz. You had the Associated Press asking questions of Tim Walz on this, doing fact checks of his record. They're going to do the same to you, Gavin Newsom. So change, if for no other reason, for pure politics.
And what about this politics, Emily? I mean, if a Republican president cleans it all up, and by the way, Jonathan Hunt reported a short time ago that they're planning another riot. So, and the president's already said, look, if we need to bring in those standing by at Camp Pendleton, our Marines, we will.
Well, and this time, then apparently there's pre-planning involved versus last time where that was the excuse or the reasoning given by, remember, LAPD, which said we didn't know that it was going to sort of devolve into this or evolve into this. I think it's sort of funny that the president qualified his statement about Gavin Newsom by saying, you know, I like the guy, but he's grossly incompetent, and then goes on to say all this stuff. But I do think that, let's say, war of words aside, it's actions and results that we're seeing playing out on our screen as to what is effective and what is not. So you want your precinct taken over for 23 days? That's the model in Seattle you don't do. You want law and order? You bring in the federal response. And again, to remind everyone, this is for basic immigration enforcement. And you are seeing the tantrum, the violence as a result, and the mischaracterization of who exactly that they are basic immigration enforcing against. There's no mention of the criminal rap sheets and the violence whatsoever of these people that they're trying to remove. It's only about who they are purporting to have removed and the schools and the like, and that's what you're getting. So heavy behavior requires a heavy hand, and it's lawful.
You know, Kaylee, it's interesting as you look at the screen. You often may wonder if sanctuary cities want to fly the American flag first. I think we get a lot of answers when we see how many flags are flying that are not American flags and things that are burning and people hurt.
Absolutely. And what's remarkable about this is that Trump actually threw Gavin Newsom a political lifeline by sending in the National Guard. And yet Democrats like Newsom have convinced themselves that the 10 to 20% of every single issue is the resounding opinion of the American public on anything from illegal immigration to men and women's sports, which we were just talking about. Gavin Newsom has apparently deluded himself into believing that the American people want violence in Los Angeles' streets, that they don't want the Trump administration to send violent criminals back to where they belong. It's just wrong. A CBS poll actually came out this weekend, and this was taken before the riots broke out, that found that 54% of the public approves of Trump's immigration agenda, including mass deportations. That number is going to be significantly higher as a result of Newsom's refusal to act on this. They do not want sanctuary counties. They do not want sanctuary cities. And as evidence of that fact, just think of a poll that was taken last month that found that even 2% of Democrats see Gavin Newsom as the face of the Democratic Party. Not even his own party wants him. So I agree with you, Kayleigh. I think his political aspirations are dead in the water, and he only has himself to blame.
Wait, has Rahm Emanuel come out and responded about this, by the way? Because that should be, per our ongoing discussion last week, no one sees Gavin Newsom as the head of the party. He only sees himself as that, right? But Rahm Emanuel is sort of rising up as the common sense voice. And I wonder if he has weighed in and said essentially like, yeah, this is exactly unacceptable. And yes, now the adults are in town, right? The voice of reason.
He'd be wise to distance himself, draw that cleave between him and Gavin Newsom and be like, I'm the real voice of common sense.
Right. And as Emily's pointing out, not just distance, but be vocal about it, too.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.